And welcome to another edition of the Videocraft show presented by Video Husky. I am your host, Jon Santiago, and in case you're new around here, it is my job and my responsibility every single week to speak with content creators, specifically those who are building an audience through video. We talk about their stories, their experiences, and their strategies for how they're doing that. And we are at that time again. Well, I mean, we're still a relatively new podcast, so this is the second time that we're doing this, but we are going to do a season 2 recap. We've gone through 10 episodes already, and just like last time, in case you missed that, you can go ahead and watch episode 11 of the Videocraft show. That is our recap of season 1. But joining me again is my producer, Nikki Vicente. There she is.
Hey, guys.
We are just going to go through each guest that we had on the podcast and talk about just some of the things that stood out. In particular, I'm going to lean on Nikki for a lot of this because I want to know what her thoughts are. I have my thoughts, clearly, of talking to these people. But I think all of you hear enough of me like asking questions of these people. I think it's great to have a different perspective on the podcast. So without further ado, why don't we go ahead and get started with our first guest of season 2, and that was the incomparable and fun-loving Mark Wolters. He's awesome, isn't he?
Yeah. Hey, guys. It's me, Nikki Vicente, back again. So we're going to talk about Mark Wolters first. I did work with Mark Wolters before at Video Husky, and he's just such an overall nice guy, Mark Wolters, and so easy to work with. And if you watch his videos on Wolters World on YouTube, he keeps things simple and he goes straight to the point. And it's the same way when he does his travel videos. He, like you said, John, he doesn't have fluff. He doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. He just goes straight to the point of, top 10, what not to do, or, things to know about a certain country and stuff like that. So his travel videos are super just realistic and down to earth. And I like what he said, in his episode, his conversation with you. He said that, we don't need drone shots when traveling or watching a travel vlog, because you're not going to be flying over a city. You're going to be street level. So when he said that, it's like it made a lot of sense, because a lot of the quote unquote aesthetic or cinematic travel vlogs that we see nowadays have a lot of drone shots, cinematic shots. Well, Mark just keeps it realistic, and it's like how you would see a city when you're traveling. It's just eye level, street level shots. And I also like what he said about his philosophy when filming his travel vlogs. It's just that he said, I want to educate them so that they can do well in their travels. And I feel like that's apparent in the way he educates people, tells people about the countries that he visits. So yeah, that's what stood out to me from your conversation with him. I also liked, I'm just going on and on here, but there were a lot of good things you guys talked about. But I liked another thing that he said, that you don't have to be perfect when making these videos. You just have to make a video and upload it, You don't have to make it too intricate and, too detailed. You just have to make a video, get started. It's not going to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect. And just, put it out, upload it, so you have something on your socials. People can have something to look at,
What's really I admire most about Mark is he has really like no frills to his content. It's very just matter of fact. It's really like being in his classroom, because actually, for those of you who haven't heard that episode, Mark is a professor at the University of Illinois, and he teaches marketing. He actually teaches social media marketing, and that's something that we talked about in this conversation of how I assume that many of his students probably appreciate the fact that they get to learn from a professor who actually does what he professes to do. Um, and he is somebody who's just been on YouTube for such a long time, and it shows that, look, there's a lot of emphasis on creators who are having incredible success in a very short amount of time, right? There are creators out there who, were 0 subscribers the other day and then went to 1 million in a single year, right? But
Yeah.
he's somebody who's just built something that's just totally sustainable. It's got this slow growth, and we've had a couple other guests on the show who are like that, and it just kind of shows that you don't have to aim for that. You don't necessarily have to aim for like that super quick, fast success right away. Like there are many different ways to find your audience on YouTube. So let's go ahead and hear from Mark. Hear a clip from my conversation with Mark Wolters. What tips would you offer to anyone who's just trying to get better and more comfortable in front of the camera like that? Because again, that's just like through repetition, I imagine, where you're able to just do that.
Yeah. Well, I would say one thing is realize you're not going to be perfect. I mean, a lot of people say, I'm going to start my YouTube channel once I get some good videos ready. I'm like, no, just make a video and put it out. Like, start making content so there's something there, because you may think I'm gonna make the greatest video ever, then everyone's gonna subscribe. Like, no, they're not. They might watch your one video, then they're gonna look for something else. There's nothing else there. They're not gonna subscribe. Why? Like, I just found this new space channel last night. It's like, I think Let's Go to Space or something like that. I don't remember. It's 100 subscriber. I'm like, wow, they've got 3 videos out so far, but those are actually good videos. I subscribed, but I'm like, I'm going to guess a lot of you haven't subscribed yet because they just don't, like, they put out their 3rd video like 2 days ago when I saw it. So I'm like, yeah, people aren't, you got to have content out there. You got to have something for them to really get to know you. And so don't be afraid to put stuff out. Don't try to be a perfectionist, because then you're never going to put any content out. Also, I would say in terms of, like how I go with the one take, like I'll mess up, but I'm not going to be, unless I mess up, at the very beginning, which is actually the toughest. The introduction, the intro is always the hardest. Yeah, that is where you mess up the most. But like when I go through, I'm like, look, if I have a little mess up, I'm like, hold on, I'll just start where I kind of messed up a little bit before that, and I'll go, instead of doing the whole thing over again. Because you can go in, there's tons of editing software out there. There's wonderful companies that can help you out with that too. No, those name Video Husky. But anyway, they can like cut those things together for you. They can help out, because if you're worried about being perfect, nobody's perfect. It's okay not to have perfect videos. Like I watch other travel videos. I'm like, damn, your stuff is gorgeous. You have all those jump cuts and all that beautiful lens flare. And I'm like, I literally, my B-roll is me with my phone taking video. I'm like, this is what you're actually going to see. There's no drone. I don't use any drone footage, at least not yet, because I'm like, you're not going to be in a drone flying over this city. You're going to be on street level. So this is what you're going to see. And so that's been one of those things that I'm like, look, just make the videos. Don't think you have to be perfect day one.
All right. Up next, we have, ironically, she's fantastic. She is quite the opposite of Mark Wolters.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
It's funny because you have brought up, and he talked about this, like the not relying on drone footage and really any kind of cinematic effects with his videos. Well, Laura is actually one of these travel vloggers who does that, and I think she does an amazing job.
She does, yeah.
With the kind of content that she creates. She does create like a vibe or like some sort of feel that makes you want to transport to that place. Whereas Mark's content is more like informational, here's what you can do here. Whereas Laura's content is definitely more aspirational. But for me in this conversation, and I don't know about you, and I'm curious to hear what you think. What I really enjoyed most about talking to Laura was her focus on business, right? Like she's somebody who could easily just make a living off of her looks, right? But she is clearly more than that in the way that she thinks about building what she is building, which is an e-commerce company based on a swimwear that she concocted while traveling around the world. And it was really just interesting to me to hear how passionate she was, and how, I don't know what the right word to say here would be, but just like into the weeds, I guess, for lack of a better term, like into the weeds with the business side of things, right? Like, I think there are a lot of creators out there who are starting businesses, or maybe they are leveraging their brands to start businesses, but they're not really involved, right? They're just more or less like using their influence to gain equity in a company, or just throw their name behind like a product that already exists. Whereas, Laura is very much into all of the things that need to be involved with like building a sustainable business, like sourcing the product materials and whatnot, and even thinking longer term in the future about how she wants to market beyond doing influencer marketing and content marketing, right? So I just found that for me, that was probably one of the the standout moment from that conversation I had with her.
Yeah, her clothing brand, Live More, the label is what it's called. It's super admirable what she's done with it, because she combined her love for travel and for fashion, and she did something creative with it. She did, I think it's reversible clothing.
Exactly.
And I feel like it's her way of providing a solution to a problem that people like her, people who travel a lot, like especially women who travel a lot, have while traveling, is that sometimes you need to pack light and you run out of outfits. So this is her like creative way of providing a solution to that problem. Like, with one piece of clothing, you can have two options, like one color here, another color there. And it's super admirable. Like you said, the way she was involved in designing every aspect of her clothes, of her products, because she mentioned that she went through a lot of manufacturers, went through a lot of prototypes with these clothes. And she also learned that you have to be really specific when you want to create something, because if you're not specific about, let's say, I don't want a zipper here, I want like a ribbon here. If you don't say that specific instruction, you're gonna get something else. So I love how she was very detail oriented. She said that she learned to be very detail oriented, and to be able to like say to the manufacturer what she wants exactly. And I feel like that also translates in her vlogs, because like we said earlier, her vlogs are very like opposite to Mark Wolters, her vlogs are very aesthetic, and she knows how to go for that look of like, you want to be where she is, because she has a way of presenting these places that she travels to. But on the opposite side of that coin, I guess, is she also admits that even if it looks aesthetic, even if it looks relaxing, it's not relaxing. She said that when she's filming, she's like, it looks relaxing, but it's a lot of hard work. Like, you have to, it looks like we're just sitting there at a cafe drinking coffee, but no, like we plan everything. Like, we go there, we take the shot, and like we have to go to another place to have like this vlog that's, filled with events. It's not just like, you can't just have a vlog that you're at, just in one place, So I like how she admits to the messy but strategically hidden parts of vlogging, of travel vlogging. That she doesn't really show a lot of the hassle parts of vlogging. But she does have other vlogs where it's more realistic. So I like the variety, and I just like her overall honesty about how it's messy. I know it looks amazing on screen, but it's also messy behind the scenes. So I like that she said that, and that she admitted that it takes a lot of work to do that,
Yeah, there's just different aesthetics depending on what platform you're on. I think, if I think that's something she talked about, was that like on Instagram, that's kind of what users there are looking for, like her audience there is looking for. And Whereas on YouTube, she can be a little bit more open and kind of show you the behind the scenes of things. So it just depends on what the audience wants, right? And where she's telling her story. So let's go ahead and take a look at a clip from my conversation with Laura Reid. Laura, I also, I want to talk to you also about obviously like your experiences of shooting travel content on the road. Can you walk me through what that process looks like for you when because when you go to these places? Again, everyone they see the final product, they see, oh wow, this is beautiful, this is amazing, but I know that it takes a lot of hard work to like plan out what you're going to shoot, where you're going to be, coordinating everything. I mean, just walk me through that process.
Yeah, so filming a YouTube video a travel YouTube video specifically, is definitely a lot more work than people would think. And so from the planning process where you're deciding on the thumbnail, deciding on the title, then you go out and shoot all day. And something I guess that does contribute to maybe Instagram or YouTube not being as real as people would think is that a lot of times in the videos when you're showing a beautiful spot and you're like, oh, we're just relaxing here, you're never relaxing there. So most of the time you're just going to a place, you're filming your intro clip, saying, oh, like telling a bit about the place, and then you get your B-roll and then you go to the next location. And it's not as a scene, and given not all travel vlogs are like that, I find when I'm going on an actual vacation and I just happen to be filming, those are very kind of raw and honest. But ones where I'm on a filming trip and say I go to the Philippines for 14 days and I'm trying to pump out as much content as possible, we will really plan out our days and we're kind of filming it like you would film a movie, I guess you would say. And so you go to the location, you get the shots, and then you go to the next location, you get the shots, and you're creating the storyline of the travel vlog. And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize. And the reason you have to do that as well is because you want the vlog to be as interesting as possible. And so you want to fit as much in there as possible. So say, for example, if you just go to the beach and hang out on the beach all day, it's not going to be that interesting of a vlog. And so you want to maybe go to a cool local restaurant, then go to the beach, and then go somewhere else, and then grab another snack along the road. Maybe you see a cool shack that has like smoothies, and then you go film somewhere else. And so it takes a lot of these scenes in order to make an interesting video. And so, yeah, when you film these travel vlogs, it's definitely a lot more work than people would think.
So the third guest of season 2, he is a guy who you actually don't see him on screen. He is someone who has built a massive audience on YouTube without appearing in a single video, other than his hand, I guess. Mark Wooding is the mastermind behind the amazing YouTube channel called After School, and he creates these incredible usually philosophical whiteboard animation videos. Where he's like repurposing different talks or conversations from podcasts or commencement speeches. And I've been watching Mark's stuff for, I don't know, the last year and a half or so. I don't even remember how I came across his content, but I really enjoyed getting the chance to meet with him and to have really what was like a long winding conversation that went into many different places, as you can probably attest, Nikki.
Yeah, I was listening to your conversation with Mark Wooding. It was very philosophical. Like, you guys talked about a lot of things, and I like his story about how he manifested 100K subscribers in 1 year. That was amazing because of the fact that 6 months in after setting his goal, like, he wasn't even 1% into his goal. Like, he didn't even have 1,000 subscribers 6 months in. But another 6 months later, that's when he actually hit 100,000 subscribers, which was so amazing to me. And he was like, you know what? Let's go crazy. Let's set another crazy goal. He was like 2 million, but then he was like, it doesn't just work that way. But yeah, like, his work is amazing after school. Like you said, he doesn't really show his face. But what I found funny was the story he said about his handwriting being recognized at the post office.
That's right.
Like his handwriting is so distinct, I guess, because of, of all his drawings on After School, that someone recognized his handwriting at the post office was just so funny to me. And yeah, you guys talked about a lot of philosophical things, quoting Aristotle here and there. But I like the most practical advice that he gave, in my opinion, was the fact that he said that you just have to be consistent if you're you want to make it as a content creator. Like, you just have to be consistent. And it sounds simple, but honestly, it takes a lot of hard work, especially when you do something like what Mark does. It takes a lot of hard work to draw every frame and make a whole video that has meaning and substance. But you just have to be consistent, and he said that that's how you build trust with your audience. And if your audience knows that you're gonna put out good content on schedule, like, it's that's how you build trust with them. And he said that trust is everything. So I like what he said, because like I said, it's easy to say be consistent, upload every Tuesday or so, but it takes a lot of hard work to do that.
But the funny thing is, you go to YouTube, and I've been to the YouTube headquarters several times, and you talk to other YouTubers, and you're always like, what's the secret? People always want to know, what are some tips that you can give me to grow my channel? Do you have any like secret cool advice? And the best advice I can give is like the most unsexy tips ever. And people are always really let down when I tell them, but it's just be consistent. And they're always let down when I say that. They're like, all right, yeah, thanks. Like, that is something to not be taken lightly, because that's how you build trust with your audience, and trust is everything. And so like, everybody knows that on Tuesday at 9 a.m. that After School video is coming out, and they also know that they can trust that it's going to be worth their time. Because if I make one bad video, which I definitely have, that hurts our trust. And then the next time they see that After School video come out at 9 a.m., they're like, that last experience wasn't worth my time. And you start to lose. So it takes a very long time to gain trust, very short time to lose it. So every video's got to be a banger. Every video has to provide a great amount of value to their lives. Otherwise, it's just not worth the time. So yeah, I think it's gotten to a point where the trust, it feels good. Like, I have a very good relationship with the followers. The comments are really positive. The like to dislike ratio is like 99% to 1%. So, and that's increased over time. It used to be like 50-50. They really didn't like that millennial video in the beginning. So that's kind of the process. And then, you want to promote your video, and luckily there's all these different avenues to promote through Reddit and Instagram. And one of the best ways to promote a video is to get somebody with a big following to share it as well. So one thing that's helped me is I've done several Joe Rogan videos, and he's got a massive following, and he's been nice enough to share some. And so when he'll share a video, it really helps. Yeah, and it just gets easier. I think the hardest part is getting started with anything. The first step on this staircase is like 10 feet high. But once you get over that first step, it's like regular stairs. And yeah, the ideas just keep coming. And now it's at a point where I'm really blessed, where people are coming to me with their very best ideas and presenting them to me and saying, would you make a video out of this? And it's a really cool position to be in. Like we were mentioning, like, just who I get to talk to on a weekly basis is really cool, because I have this like imposter syndrome. Like, who am I? I'm just some dude that is talking to Paul Stamets this morning, the mushroom expert, Les Stroud, the Survivor Man, 10-20 seasons on Discovery Channel. Brian Grazer last week, and all sorts of people. I was just talking to 2 different UFC fighters,
Wow.
ex-UFC champions. I'm a big MMA fan, so I really like talking to UFC fighters and picking their brain about things. And yeah, it's just like it's kind of like the way I consume content and information. It's like a buffet. I talk to this scientist, I talk to this philosopher, comedian. So yeah, just not setting any limits on yourself is great.
Right, the fourth guest that we had, we're on guest number 4, right, Nikki?
Right.
Guest number 4 of the Videocraft show. Another long conversation, fun conversation. I like these long conversations that I have with people. Was with Tom Kuegler of Finding Tom. And this guy is kind of like a content savant, I think, because he's all over the place. I mean, he's dominated Medium as a blogger. And then he basically took that same, he's taken that same formula to YouTube, being very opinionated, very bold with the statements that he makes. And as I mentioned to him in the conversation, how I discovered him was through an article that he wrote that was linked in an email newsletter that I subscribe to called The Loop with Mish and Rob. And it was his article in Better Marketing on Medium about the concept of Pinoy baiting, which I had never heard of before. And so I'm really curious, considering you are Pinay, you're Filipino.
Yep.
Your thoughts on this whole concept, and if it was something that you were aware of? Is this something that you were aware that foreign creators are doing?
Yeah, I had never heard of the term Pinoy baiting before your conversation with Tom. But when he defined it, it was like, oh yeah, like there's a lot of foreigners here in the Philippines who make content about the Philippines, and not just foreigners, people who live abroad who make content about Filipinos, like, you know, foreigner reacts to Jollibee or foreigner reacts to Filipino whatever.
Foreigner goes to Mega Mall for the first time and is wowed by how big the mall is.
There's a lot of those videos, and then I realized that when I was listening to your convo with Tom, and he has a point because, like he said, he also admits to feeling guilty about Pinoy baiting. But to his defense, I feel like he lives here in the Philippines, so it makes sense for him to make content about Filipinos and content about the Philippines. What I guess is considered as Pinoy baiting is if you don't have nothing to do with the Philippines or Filipinos, and then you just keep making content about the Philippines. But I like what Tom said about in relation to Pinoy baiting is that you have a responsibility as a content creator to give back to those who support you. You can't just keep making content about these people and, like, you know, you're earning so much money from wherever income streams you have because of your content about a certain topic. But I like that he emphasized that you have to give back and you have a responsibility. And it's just so amazing the work that he does, because he has, I checked, he has 500,000 followers on Facebook. So it's obvious that people want to listen to what Tom has to say. And there's so much power in that, I believe, because he just started on Upwork as a freelance writer. Like, he wasn't even thinking of, like, you know, I'm gonna be a writer when I grow up. It wasn't like that for him. It was just like, you know, what freelance work can I get on Upwork? And that's how it started for him, right? Like, freelancing on Upwork, and now he has 500,000 followers on Facebook, and people want to listen to what he has to say. So I feel like there's so much power in that. And it's not just, you know, it's not just Tom who has something to say. It's so many people around the world who just doesn't hit publish, you know. And I feel like that's such a, just like I said, it's a powerful thing to realize that you don't know that maybe someone wants to listen to what you have to say about any topic. And I feel like he's such a testament to that because of how he's grown as a writer and as a creator. So yeah.
Yeah, his audience is very engaged on Facebook. He shared the
Yeah.
link. He shared a link to the episode, or to a snippet from the episode, and that, you know, that got a good amount of views for us, and a
It
lot
did,
of engagement on his Facebook page. I think it had like hundreds of likes or something. It's a very hot button topic in the Philippines, apparently. It's really fascinating, especially from like the marketing perspective and even like the audience growth perspective. You know, with what people might be doing in terms of getting more people over to their YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and toss it to a clip from that conversation I had with Tom. I had come across your video about the concept of Pinoy baiting, and it was so fascinating to me as somebody who works in marketing, that concept. And it makes total sense to me, like what is going on there, like, because, and people who are not necessarily from the Philippines, they may not know this, but the Philippines has historically been one of the most technologically engaged countries in the entire world. I can remember going to the Philippines with my dad when I was a teenager, and they were by far ahead of us when it came to texting. Like, they were always texting, always on their cell phones. So as technology has evolved, obviously, like, their engagement with technology has also grown more attached as well. And so the point that I'm trying to make here is Filipinos are constantly on their phones, looking at Facebook, looking at social media. And so you brought up this, you pointed this out and brought this to light, is this concept of Pinoy baiting and creating content that really targets that Filipino audience, because there's a knowledge there that, hey, all these Filipinos, they're always on their cell phones, and we know that we can pop off, we can get like 1 million views because like 1 million Filipinos are gonna watch this video.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's sort of where I actually sort of read a tweet by this person on Twitter called M.A. Buendia, and he sort of talked about Pinoy baiting and talked about what it was and how, foreigners and media companies like Netflix even will sort of pander to a Filipino audience just because they know they can get more views. Because they know that, so like there was this whole controversy about, I think Lucifer, this show Lucifer on Netflix. There's
Mm-hmm.
this one scene where he's speaking Tagalog, and a lot of people were sort of saying like that's Pinoy baiting. Like Netflix knows that people in the Philippines are, they probably have a lot of people in the Philippines who are watching Netflix, and they're probably pandering to them, or there's maybe a market there that there's not a lot of Filipinos watching Netflix, and if they put this clip on social media, it'll get shared, and then more people will want to like get Netflix so they can see that particular scene, and whatever. And even with Money Heist, one of the main characters' names is Manila in the latest season, and so I mean, just little things like that. I don't, but I don't really blame Netflix for that, honestly. I think the worst parts are the vloggers who, make just blatant like pandering to Philippines, to the Philippines, and to Filipinos, and they in their heart of hearts like don't really love the country that much, or they don't really care that much. And like this is such an interesting conversation to have, because a lot of people feel a lot of different ways about this. And I think that at the end of the day, I think that there's pretty good arguments all the way around. Some people would say, well, they're still promoting our country. Okay. You know, some people would say they're still promoting positivity. Okay. That's good too. At least they're not being negative. At least they're not like putting negative vibes out into the universe. But it's sort of like, if you say that, you sort of can't say, like, you want people to be genuine with you at all times, right? Like if someone's lying to you, you're not going to like that. It doesn't matter what situation you're in, unless you're watching WWE. In that case, you're good with them lying to you because you know it's all fake, you know. But like the presupposition that this stuff is genuine from these creators, I don't know. I feel like it causes some problems, and I feel like, you know, why do you care so much about people being genuine and real and truthful with you in every other aspect of your life, but when it comes to the entertainment you watch, you don't care. You know, you don't care if they're not genuine. You don't care if they don't really care about you. You know, and here's just one other little aspect to this that I think is interesting. Like when you have such a big audience, when you grow really big on social media and stuff, and you start to make money from your content, it sort of like becomes a responsibility for you as a creator to, like, I don't know, create positive change, you wield an audience of hundreds of thousands of people, sometimes millions of people. That's an incredible responsibility, and you sort of owe it to your audience, the people that watch you, to help them in some way because they helped you get to where you are. And like when you just, I don't know, it's hard. When I walk around the Philippines, I see, you know, obviously you're going to see poverty and stuff. I see problems. I've lived there for a couple years now. I love the country. I love the people there. I naturally want to help them. So like, why wouldn't I talk about different ways that, you know, maybe you could help someone or maybe raise money for, you know, people in need, especially during the pandemic, or like raise money for people that have flooding because of like a typhoon, you know? I don't know. I don't really see those creators doing that much. A lot of these Filipino creators doing that, you know, and I feel like that's a problem. It's, you know, maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I'm making a big deal out of nothing, but I just think that there's a responsibility that you should have as a creator, you know, and to help people in need, period.
Right, Tim Schmoyer. Wow, what a great get for the podcast. He was the next guest that we're going to highlight here in this recap episode. And Tim is incredible because he is the founder and mastermind behind Video Creators on YouTube. It's a website. They've worked with plenty of different brands, like big name brands like Disney, HBO, Budweiser, eBay, and they've also worked with other creators as well to help them grow their own audiences through YouTube. And this was interesting because like he has a very specific point of view or perspective on how foundationally creators should be approaching the platform, right? And there is a tendency you know, to kind of think about every little optimization, like what keywords should I have, how should my thumbnail look, and which are all important. I'm not saying that they're not important. It's just that there tends to be an overemphasis on that, and before people actually really have an idea of what is the message that they're trying to spread first. And that was something that I think in this conversation with Tim really hit home for me. Also, on top of that, I really enjoyed his thoughts on how he is approaching parenthood in this era as well. I don't have kids at this point, but this is an important thing to think about because this is uncharted territory, especially where you have more people becoming micro-famous, so to speak. And, you know, how much exposure is enough, you know, and how much content should they be, how much content should they have access to, right? Like relative to like how much time they're spending outside or hanging out with real people. So there was a lot from this conversation, and I'm glad that he was able to come on the podcast.
Yeah, there was a lot of good things you guys talked about, and I like his approach to creating videos. He said that it's important for him to be able to touch people's lives through YouTube. And through that, he applies his, his conversational one-on-one approach when making videos. Like you said, YouTube is a very conversational one-on-one platform. Like you can't just go all like news anchor style on YouTube. Like people won't be able to relate to you as much. So YouTube is much more down to earth in that way. Like you have to speak in a way that's relatable. I also like what he said about how you don't have to be in front of so many people. You just have to be in front of the right people. And I feel like that's a good thing to apply when you're making content, is because like a lot of people, they want to have like millions of subscribers right off the bat. But some don't realize that it's better to be in front of the few right people instead of like 100,000 of the wrong people who aren't really interested in what you have to say or who aren't really invested in the topics that you're talking about. So yeah, on the topic of his parenting, his kids, and how he decided to go on a 1-year screen detox. I have nephews and nieces who were always on their phones and iPads and YouTube, TV, so, and I feel like a lot of kids nowadays, instead of going outside to play, like they don't need to go outside. They just have to whip out their iPad and go on YouTube or play on their apps. And, we don't realize that this doesn't help with, like what Tim said, it doesn't help with the brain development of children, that they're not able to develop the brain connections when it comes to problem solving. The neural yes, exactly. There, that's the phrase, the neural pathways that kids need in order to develop, like I said, problem solving skills. So I feel like that was an important move for them as parents. And it's something that we have to think about more too. Parents, not us, because we're not parents. I don't have kids either.
Well, even to a certain degree, we have to think about it too, just in
actually,
terms of like how much content we consume on a daily basis.
That's
just
true.
So much information out there, and it's it's almost like we need to. This is my prediction. I bet in the next 10 years, information diets are going to be as popular and as lucrative as a business as like weight loss diets.
Yeah,
because there's just so much out there, and it's hard to decipher what is good and what is not good.
And for a lot of people, they think that their goal is to be in front of as many people as possible. But really, if you have a more business mindset around your channel, a mindset that will make it more financially sustainable in the long run, then it's not as important that you're in front of as many people as possible. It's important that you're in front of the right people. It's better to be in front of 10 of the right people than like 100,000 of the wrong people. Because especially if you have a product or you have a service or you're developing like a Patreon page or YouTube members or whatever the case may be, you want those people to make a transaction with you of some kind. You need the right people. And as we consistently see over and over and over again, that the people who make the most money and the most successful on YouTube from that standpoint are not always, actually are the bigger channels are more the exception, that who make, like I have a friend of mine, I was actually talking with her earlier today. She has 1.6 million subscribers and makes like $800 a month right off of AdSense. So people think that bigger channels make more money, but it's not true. It's more about the business model. But I think I'm off track from what you actually asked. Sorry.
It's okay.
I just went way off in left field. You're like, whoa, Tim. Okay, that's all right. Bring it back.
No,
now.
man. No, I love it, man. This is where I love podcasts. I love that we launched this podcast because I love like the conversations to kind of just meander into different spaces that we don't even really intend to go, but they could be really good spaces, right? And so one thing you bring up too, and we had talked about this like a little bit before we started recording, is we have a mutual connection. You're friends with Owen Hemzath. Owen Hemzath is somebody who has appeared on this podcast, and I spoke to Owen on one of the early episodes of this podcast about being a smaller YouTuber and how he's kind of championing that cause. Because even Owen himself, his YouTube channel has about 60,000 subscribers, but he's doing really well. Like he's got enough people, not necessarily like a massive enough people, but enough people. Yeah. The right people to work with and help them in their own journeys as they try to become creators themselves.
It's almost always beneficial to focus on the right people and not just the most people if you have a business mindset. If you just want the internet to stroke your ego and make you feel more popular, then go after the most people. But even then, it's not going to be sustainable long term, because if you're reaching like a really broad general audience, you're just trying to get as many people as possible, it's usually that community that doesn't stay solid for a long time because there's not enough core beliefs and shared beliefs that tie them together and make it like, I really just need to keep watching everything that this person does. So the brand ends up being too broad and then attracting like nobody. So there's a lot more to unpack there, but yeah, it's kind of how we think about being in front of the right people and not just as many people as possible.
The next guest that we had on the show was Trisha Hershberger, and she is incredibly big these days on Twitch. And I'm going to tell you something, Nikki. I'm curious about this because you got to listen to the interview. And I remember when I did the interview, I wasn't too happy with the way that I conducted the interview. She was amazing. I thought that she had some great things to say to the questions that I had, but I felt like I kind of over-prepared for the conversation and ended up going in a direction that maybe didn't really, in some facets, didn't resonate as much as I would like to with her. But nonetheless, she's like a professional. She's done this before. You know, she's a hostess and she knows how to handle, situations and whatnot. But I kind of felt like I dropped the ball on the conversation, this one. So, and I've heard feedback from other people who listened to the episode as well that kind of felt the same. So I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, it wasn't too obvious. She did sort of correct your introduction to her. Like, I think you emphasized that she was most known for her online vlogs, like her journal.
Yes.
What's it called? The Naked Truth. Right.
Which is incredible, by the way. Go check it out on Spotify. It's available on Spotify. Look it up. It's now a podcast.
Right. She transitioned from YouTube to podcasting for The Naked Truth. But she did emphasize that she would be better served to be more known for her other work, right? Like her, she mentioned some work she had with some production companies, and that now she is more focused on Twitch. So, yeah, in terms of the interview, it wasn't too obvious. It was still, in my opinion at least, it was still a good conversation. I like what she said about she compared live streaming on YouTube versus live streaming on Twitch, because she came from YouTube. Like, that's where she started off at SourceFed and her vlogs on her personal channel, and now she's live streaming on Twitch. She said that she doesn't want to hang out at a place that has a lot of negativity in the comments and stuff like that. Because there's not a lot of moderation in the comments on YouTube, whereas on Twitch, it's normal for, comments to be moderated and people to be kicked out if you're disrespecting the streamer and stuff like that. And I just like her. She was just so decided, she's gone through what she's gone through on YouTube, I guess, with all the bad comments there that, people just say what they want to say. But now she's having a better time on Twitch, which you guys talked about, right? Like, she is streaming now, and you guys compared pre-recorded content versus live content, and live performing is where she came from because she started off in theater, right? So I feel like that's why she resonates with live streaming more today, with live performances, because that's where her passion lies too, with theater. She was a kid. So yeah.
Yeah, she live streaming, I think she made the point that live streaming can be a little less complicated to create, right? Versus like
Yeah.
scripted content or pre-recorded content, because you're improvising and it's like a real-time conversation. I really admire that she's been able to build a community there, and that's a common theme that you're seeing with a lot of creators these days, is that they're using these platforms to build community, and so she's really taking advantage of that by using Twitch. Trisha, do you find that there are differences between live streaming on YouTube relative to live streaming on Twitch?
100%. Yes, it's very different. YouTube was later to implement moderation. And YouTube kind of, at least when I first came up in YouTube, had this idea of like, you never want to ban anybody or moderate your chat, freedom of speech till the end of time. And especially as a female, it made it very hard to be on the internet when you would constantly see emotional or sexual harassment in the comments. And it takes a toll on you, and not be able to do anything about it. Now, that being said, at least at the time that I came over to Twitch, there were moderation was already a thing. It's more culturally accepted, and you can build out your community the same way you want to. A good friend of mine once said that, you know, if you went to a coffee shop every day and the coffee was amazing, but everybody sitting inside the coffee shop was throwing food at each other and screaming at each other all the time, you probably wouldn't want to go back to that coffee shop, no matter how great the coffee is. And if there's one down the store that has mediocre coffee, but everybody who hangs out in that coffee shop is lovely and wonderful, which coffee shop are you going to go to? And so, you know, that's really how I think about building out a community, and having a community that kind of reflects the same values and, you know, kind of not morale, but, you know, just kind of the same. Like, if I'm there to hang out and chill, I would love to have a community also be there to hang out and chill. Whereas on YouTube, it's a little more, I think, because it was so pre-recorded video first, people assume that there's this wall where they can say whatever they want. And I don't know if they think about the content creator actually seeing it. People just tend to be a lot nastier on YouTube, for whatever reason that is. So if I'm going to choose like, hey, I'm done work for the day and all I want to do is play video games with some friends, and I can choose a place where some of the friends might be really mean to me, or I can choose a place where everybody's just happy to hang out, where do you think I'm going to go?
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I'm out of high school. I'm past the mean girls thing. I'm past the high school drama, and I don't have the time or energy to deal with it anymore. So I'm going to go to a place that makes me happy. And I just think Twitch has done a much better job with that. And, you know, and again, that could be, I'm sure there are people who moderate wonderful communities and build out wonderful communities on their YouTube channels as well. But like I said, you know, kind of 3 to 5 years ago, I stepped more away from my YouTube. And maybe if I had stayed there and kind of focused my energy on adjusting that community there, then that would be a different story. But for me, at least in my experience, Twitch has been a much more welcoming place to be. And I've heard that from other creators as well.
So our next guest that we had on the show was Josh McNair, and Josh is the man behind the lens of California Through My Lens. And Through My Lens, it's more globally focused, but he's a travel vlogger, and I think it's so cool that he found his niche within the niche. That's like a term that I like to use.
Yeah.
Because you have like the overarching niche, and then you have like the subcategory of the niche, right? And so there are tons of travel vloggers out there who are like, you know, globetrotting around the world and doing very interesting things. But very rarely do you come across a travel vlogger that is just focused on one particular region or made their name in one particular region. And Josh has really made a name for himself by exploring the Golden State, where I'm from. And there's a lot to explore here in California. I go to his blog and his YouTube channel for tips all the time, just to try and figure out what to do, these days, especially as COVID restrictions ease up here in the United States. But we had I liked that conversation because we got into some sentimental things, I would say. His perspective and thoughts on creating content as a way to remember these moments. It's kind of like going back to the way things got started, how things got started on YouTube in the first place. Is just like posting your home movies essentially on the platform, except these days people are much more they're much more produced, obviously, if they're doing a pre-recorded type of content like Josh does. But that really stood out to me, is just getting to document, using his career as a creator for other things, right? Being able to connect with his father and spend more time with him. It essentially kills two birds with one stone. You make a really cool piece of content, like this incredible Route 66 documentary that he did. And then at the same time, you get to spend time with your father, traveling around this route. So those were things that really stuck out to me when talking to Josh.
Yeah, his 2-hour Route 66 documentary with his dad is amazing. It has, I think, 7 million views now and counting, last I checked. And he, on that topic, he talked a lot about, like you said, capturing memories. And I like what he said about the fact that time is fleeting and you don't know how much time you have left, I guess, in this world. You never know. And I feel like he takes action in terms of that, because he's always had plans to go on a Route 66 road trip with his father, but never had the chance. Like, he never got around to actually planning. And then just one day he just stood up and like talked to his dad and like, hey dad, let's do this. Let's go on this road trip. And in terms of like just life, I feel like more of us should do that, because we have a lot of things that we want to do, plans that we want to do. And do we actually go out there and plan these things and actually take the time to think about step one of how we're going to make this happen? And I feel like that's such a life lesson too, not just in terms of content creation, but just in terms of life, I guess, to do something about what you want to do. And it's amazing that he was able to make something out of it as well. It wasn't just a road trip. It became like this viral documentary, and a lot of people were able to appreciate that, and a lot of people are commenting still to this day that on that Route 66 documentary about how it made them miss their dad, and they wish that they had done this with their dad or their mom, their parents. And it's just amazing to be able to create content like that, that touches people's lives in that sense. It hits like that emotional, chord as a viewer. So it's amazing when you can make content like that.
How long did it take you total to plan that out and then to actually produce it and then put it out into the world?
Yeah, I mean, me and my dad have been talking about doing Route 66 for probably, almost a decade or so now, based on back when we were in high school, we always talked about driving it and then going through college and everything. And so we just kind of like, well, we got to do this. If we don't do it, it's never going to happen type of thing. So basically it'd been in the planning process for a long time. But once we finally committed to doing it, it was probably a good, month of on and off me, like thinking about the different places I wanted to stop, creating my map, booking my hotels, all of those types of pieces. And a lot of that stuff we also found on the road while we were driving, because we, took our time. So like if we saw something, we pulled off. But it was a lot of planning to do it. Then it was 2 weeks doing it. And then I finished it in July. We finished driving Route 66, but I didn't put out the first video until like almost December or January. So, I mean, it was a good 5 to 6 months of organizing all the content, working with Video Husky to get the video, some of the stuff edited, then putting on, like, I had to record voiceovers for everything, as well, to kind of tell the story while we were going. So I mean, it was an in-depth process. And the funny fact about that was that I created a video for each of the states. So like Route 66 in California, Route 66 in Arizona. And I wasn't going to I wasn't going to put them all together in one video, because I was so over it and burned out and everything by the time I was done with it all. But my dad was like, this is the only time in your life you're ever going to you could produce a feature film or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
like, you got to put out the whole thing. And I was just like, I don't want to do that, but he pushed me to do it. And so I spent the time, put it all together and put the whole thing out. And that's kind of the reason why that channel blew up, was because I put that full video out. It's like the individual states have decent amount of views, but that full video 2-hour one has got like 6 or 7 million views now. So thanks to my dad for making me do that, because I didn't want to.
That's really cool, man, to have like a supportive, family like you have, right? Like your parents just allowing you to like explore your creativity. There's some parents out there, like we're the same generation, right, who are just like, no, you have to do this. Like this is what you're supposed to do. You have to do this specific job because it's going to make you a lot of money. And you're very lucky in the sense that you have parents who have encouraged you to really like pursue what it is that interests you, and develop those skills along with it as well.
No, I agree. And it's been cool to be able to kind of have it come full circle too, in that, like, because of my job and because of the things that I'm able to do now, I'm able to bring my dad along with me on some of the things. So it's like, they obviously brought me along in the beginning with all the travels that we did, and now it's come full circle and my dad and I can travel. And so, I mean, we did Route 66, we did Loneliest Highway in Nevada. We just got back from like 6 days in Western Texas. So going to like national parks in Western Texas and El Paso and things like that. And we're planning a road trip in Alaska in the summer. So I mean, just to be able to share all those experiences with him, and for me as well to be able to have those experiences with my dad, because obviously, like, time is fleeting and you never know how long people are going to be around. And so just to be able to continue to gather those experiences and to create videos of them, so that, like, my children can see their, the way that me and their grandpa traveled or whatever. I think that there's a lot of cool aspects to all of that, for sure.
Episode 19 of the Videocraft show, presented by Video Husky, features Cassandra Thompson. And I think for me, the moment that stood out the most from this was when we started to talk about how she deals with and has dealt with negative feedback comments on YouTube. It was a moment for me where, and this was something that got brought up as well in my conversation with Mark Wolters, and it was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up with her, is that there is like a double standard that I did not even know or was aware of when it comes to how women are treated on the platform. And in essence, you could kind of say, well, duh, like that's, shouldn't you know that? Like, women we've been treated lesser than pretty much since the beginning of time. Yes, that is true. But to the degree in which it's happened for Cassandra was just like very like eye-opening for me. I mean, the fact that she had an entire hate video made about her, and this is one of the negative things about content creation, right? Like these tools give you a platform to reach and build a tribe, but at the same time, these same tools can be weaponized by people who have very bad and insensitive intentions, and that's unfortunate. I mean, it's also just like a reflection of human nature, I think, at the same time. But it was just very illuminating for me to have that conversation with her, and for her to be very transparent and very open about those challenges that she dealt with when something like that had happened to her.
Yeah, I feel like if you have a public facing career in any way, like you're bound to get, haters and trolls, and negative feedback. And that's true for content creators, and even more true for women content creators, female content creators. Women get judged on appearances more often than men do. And that's definitely a challenge as a female content creator, because instead of people focusing on what you have to say, there will be some people who will be focusing on what are you wearing? Why does your makeup look like that? Like what Cassandra said. And I like how she was just very, she was just sort of raw about it, in a sense that she was like, it happened and I got over it. Got over it is probably not the best phrase to describe it, but sort of she went through it, she learned from it, and now she's just like, you just have to ignore. Some days will be more difficult, other days will be like, it happens. And it's just, like you said, it's just part of human nature. It's a reflection of human nature. People will say what they want to say. And she also said that, people will always find a way to say something, whatever happens. So I feel like with that mentality, what's keeping her going is like, it's a reality, it's something that we just have to, we don't have, of course we have to go against that normal, like we can't just normalize that. We have to go against it. We have to question it as people, we have to talk about it. There should be conversation about it. So I really appreciate that this is a constant topic with our guests here on the Videocraft show. Like we have to acknowledge that this is happening, to women, to female content creators. So it's good to be able to acknowledge that.
I have had a hate video made about me. That was fun. Because all the people from that person's channel just came on mine again and again and again and told me I needed to die and I was terrible and why do you do this and who put you up to that? Like, why would you do this with your life? It was just disgusting. And that was hard. That I did go into some Facebook groups of other YouTubers and go, how do you deal with this? Like, this is hurtful. And I know I'm getting it on a small level. So I can't believe what massive YouTubers go through, because I know they're getting this kind of stuff all the time. And that was the only time it was really hard to deal.
How long did it take you to, I guess, I don't know if get over it is like the right words here, but just kind of learn to live with it, I guess, that had happened to you?
I would say a couple of weeks, just in terms of the comments needed to die down, right? Like that guy needed to move on to a different video so his audience could go hate on somebody else. And then once the comments were gone, it was a lot easier to move on and just focus on my actual audience, right? I think that's the part that's hard is, and I've seen things on other platforms too, where something I said got really misunderstood and people just start coming for you. And then you feel like, is this everybody? Does everybody think I shouldn't be doing this for a living? And you have to remember, this is one group of people that they're in a really bad headspace for some reason. Focus on the people you're helping and just keep helping them. But I would say it took a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks. It wasn't too bad. And it didn't stop me from making content. But you just can't help but hear the things these people are saying in your head. Your looks, your hair, your voice. Women definitely seem to get that way more than the men get that. And that part, I just think it gets wearing at a certain point. I don't get it that much anymore. There was a time period where it happened a lot. Lately, I don't get it as much. We also get the opposite. I also get the people who just come on and go, "You're hot." You know, oh, cool, thanks. Like, great. I've had to block some worse comments than that, but you get both sides of it, and that gets tiring of like, don't be creepy. You know, whether it's rude or just straight up creepy, that is something that I don't think most men get in the same amount.
Yeah, it's really again, like I said earlier, it's illuminating to me because as a guy, I don't have to deal with any of that stuff. You know, we recorded our episode 11 recap, myself and my producer Nikki, and I, noticed that she had gotten dressed up and put on makeup and did her hair, and I kind of joked around with her like, yeah, I haven't even shaved today. I'm not putting on my contact lenses. I threw on a little pomade, but that's it. And it's really this is something that I want to, and I appreciate you being very open and honest about this, because I think as a man, like, this is something that I want to understand about the female creator experience, that we don't, as guys, we don't have to deal with that. We're never really judged on our looks. We're always just judged first and foremost on like our intellect or whatever. But it's just really fascinating to me that this is like a phenomenon that happens with women. And I think it's just something that needs to be talked about more often.
It's hard, right? Like, I'll be honest, even right now, I'm going, I shouldn't have worn my hair in a ponytail. I look like I'm bald. If I had my hair down, I would look better. I know somebody could comment on this video and go, oh, her makeup's too strong. I would say part of that's the lighting. People would say, but I mean, like, people will not be pleased on the way I look one way or another. Somebody will like the makeup. Somebody will go, oh, why did she do that? Somebody will say, why did you put your hair in a ponytail? Another person will go, oh, I love that she didn't get all done with the hair and the, oh, she's got a cardigan on. Like, they'll find something no matter what. I want to make it known. I also want to show up looking a certain way. Like, I am making the choice to put on a certain amount of makeup, to do my hair when I record my videos. Like, I'm making that choice. I think the thing is, why is there the need to comment on that part? Whether I decide or if some other female creator decides she wants to wear no makeup and doesn't want to get ready and wants to show up on camera, she should be able to do that and not get 400 comments about it. So it's more about it's not about the like having to get ready. It's more about the whether I got ready in a certain way or not. Why do you need to comment on that part? Does that make sense? I think that's the piece, is everyone now thinks they get to have a voice on everything, especially, I've seen people go, oh, well, you're this is not about me, but I've seen people criticize some other YouTubers and say, well, you're a public figure. I get to say what I think about how you dress or the choices you make or whatever. Why? You get to watch my content, but like giving feedback about things that can't be changed, that shouldn't matter to the content, that I think is the issue.
Andrew Hales was the guest for episode 20 of the Videocraft show, and Andrew is better known by legions of people pretty much everywhere around the world. I mean, he's at around 2.3 million subscribers at this point, by his handle Lahf, LAHWF. And I really consider Andrew as like one of these YouTube OGs now, which is weird to say, because I feel like when I came across Andrew almost 10 years ago, there was another set of YouTube OGs, but they were probably in the game like for only 5 years. I'm talking about like the Ryan Higas and, now Tim Chantarangsu, formerly Timothy De La Ghetto, Jenna Marbles, though that crop of original YouTubers, who kind of took the platform by storm. But Andrew, I mentioned in the conversation that I had with him that he's somebody who I have watched for a long time, and it's just interesting to me to be able to connect with him and have a conversation about, where his life has been and where he sees it going. And just to hear him really like be super open, and he's open about this in his YouTube videos as well, about the amount of debt that he's trying to get out of at the moment. I remember hearing him on another podcast. He was on the Iced Coffee Hour with Graham Stephan and his assistant Jack Selby, and they, on that show, Graham Stephan, popular finance YouTuber, likes to talk with creators about their personal finances. And even there, he was just talking about like how much debt he was in and how he really didn't have any. It doesn't phase him, actually. He's just kind of confident that he can get himself out of it, just based on what kind of content he can create to generate some advertising revenue from YouTube. But this was fun for me. I mean, I think we had a lot of laughs. I enjoyed just laughing with the guy. It was just like catching up with an old friend who you don't even know. So that's what it was like. I felt like I was his friend, and he probably has this vibe with like many of his viewers. But when you watch someone for as long, and you stay subscribed to someone for as long as I have to Andrew's channel, you kind of feel, that's the weird thing about this. It's I brought it up in the conversation. It's like watching that movie, The Truman Show, with Jim Carrey from like 1990. Have you ever watched that, or is that too before your time?
No, I have watched that. It's a good movie.
I wasn't sure. That's kind of like foreshadowing to like what this current atmosphere of content creation is like, right? Where everyone just kind of watches your every move. It was like a foreshadowing to reality TV and then just vlogging. And so in that conversation with Andrew, I brought that up and kind of wondered if he felt like he was like a real life version of the Truman Show.
Yeah, your conversation with Andrew Hales is probably one of my favorite interviews so far for the Videocraft show, because he's just so chill. He's so like, he's in this car just talking.
Yeah. I interviewed him for reference. Yeah, I interviewed Andrew. The funny thing, Nikki, so here, I'll tell you a little story about like the conversation with him. So we have the time booked, and we're supposed to meet on here in our virtual studio. He hasn't arrived yet, so I'm wondering, all right, maybe I just got to remind him or something. He gave me his phone number when I pitched him, so I text him and say, "Hey Andrew, just wanted to check, make sure we got the podcast coming up," and he had forgotten, which is okay. And it was just funny where when he came on, he was like, "Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm late. I forgot. I was on my way to shoot some hoops."
Yeah. Yeah, he said that.
That just made me laugh. He was like, I was on my way to shoot some hoops, and then I got your text, and then I pulled up to the Walmart parking lot, turned on, connected to the Wi-Fi, and here we are.
Yeah, like I said, he's super chill. Like, I want to be his friend. He's so down to earth. Like you said, he has that vibe where it's like, you know him, but you don't. You've never met before, like face to face. And I just like his overall vibe. I like what he said, that, he said no one cares and we're all just grains of sand. I like that tweetable quote that he said. And to come from someone who has 2 million subscribers on YouTube, for that to come from someone who has a lot of people who want to watch his content, and like I said, millions of subscribers, it's just it's so humbling, because especially for content creators who are just starting out, it's like you want to have, like I said earlier, you want to have a lot of subscribers, a lot of views right off the bat. But then for this to come from someone who's been in the YouTube game for what, a decade now or more?
Yeah, since 2012.
Yeah, so for that to come from him, it's just like such a realization that, you know, we don't have to overthink everything that we do, everything that we upload, because no one really cares. I mean, of course people care. They like watching your content, for example, but it's like it's just so humbling the way he said that. It's like we don't have to make a big deal out of ourselves, or, you know, we don't have to make every little detail like, what should my thumbnail be? What should my title be? Of course, these are all it's part of strategy, I guess, with YouTube growth and stuff. But then at the end of the day, like, you know, he said now that we're all just grains of sand, you know, in this universe, which is just so humbling. It's just such a humbling perspective to come from. He's so down to earth, and I like what he said, that the last question you asked him is that what has he learned from all those years doing all those social experiments or pranks, you know, and he said that people are a lot nicer than you think they are. So he's learned that from all the times that he's approached people to prank them, you know, to ask for a hug or to almost pick them up or to open the door from them from such a far distance. Those videos that he has. So it's nice that he's, you know, it's another nice lesson, you know, to learn that, you know, not everyone is out to get you. You know, people are a lot nicer than we think they are. So yeah, it was a great conversation.
In terms of being on YouTube for, as I mentioned earlier, for close to a decade now, what ways have you learned to cope with this strange phenomenon that is internet fame?
Well, I think it's important to, you know, you look at PewDiePie and just any famous YouTuber, influencer, and if you just ask anyone on the street if they know who they are, they'll probably say no. And that kind of just keeps things in perspective for me. Like, you're not famous, you're just like a micro celebrity, and it's all very niche. And so, yeah, and if you do the math and everything, you're not even like 0.0001% of your audience, or whatever, you know. What am I trying to say here? 2 million people isn't even 0.01 of the world, you know, and etc. So you just try not to get in your head too much, and you also just try to remember, like, no one really cares, you know. We're all just grains of sand. I don't know.
It's Andrew Hale's wisdom right there.
Yeah.
I think that's well said, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's very it's because obviously I don't have the amount of followers that you have on social media, and I actually don't envy that. I would probably prefer not to have 2 million people, you know, caring what I do.
I mean, my retention is terrible now. I mean, it's like maybe, I guess, like it's like 20 to 30,000 people per video, so it's not too bad now.
But even then, if you think about it, because I posed this same idea to another creator who was on this podcast. He's a travel vlogger. You know, 20,000 or 5-figure people watching your videos. Like, you can't fit that many people in a room. Like, that's the population of like a medium to small size city, right?
Yeah,
like that many people are like watching.
Yeah, I think it's about the size of a stadium, like a basketball stadium.
Yes,
it's not too bad. Like, you can still make a living from it, so that's good. It still prevents me from getting a real job just yet.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to convey here, or communicate through the question that I'm going to ask here, is just, isn't that, like, do you still get a sense of those 5-figure amounts of people as people, or have you kind of become desensitized to just the fact that they might just be like another number, you know?
Yeah, you definitely don't. he doesn't really seem like that many people watch. And especially like, I mean, back when I was getting like 500,000 views per video in the heyday of the pranks, it didn't even seem like that much, because I don't know, it's the internet and it's just all so scattered. And yeah, it definitely does just feel like a number for the most part.
And our final guest of season 2 is an impromptu booking. Actually, he was somebody who I just happened to stumble across him on Clubhouse. I've known his YouTube videos for a while, actually, but just so happened that he was hosting a Clubhouse with guest number 6 of the Videocraft show, Rob Built, on Clubhouse one day back in March, I think it was, and hopped in the room and said, "Hey man, you want to come on my podcast? Yeah. I know you have a great YouTube channel on all things real estate investing and personal finance and all these really interesting things." Kai Andrew was the guest on episode 21 of the Videocraft show podcast, and this dude is, I mean, man, like, this is where you see like the gamut, right, of different people. Like, we talked about Andrew Hales, who is trying to solve his financial issues at this point. And then you go to Kai Andrew, who is somebody who's like, I don't have to really work for money like ever again in my life. Like, these are the kinds of people that you can come across who are creating on YouTube. It's incredible. And everybody's running, and that's not to say, of course, that Kai is winning the race, right? Like, versus someone like Andrew or anybody else. Everybody is running their own race, right? Like, everybody is doing their own thing differently. And Kai was really, I enjoyed this conversation just from being able to, I really felt like, in terms of the way that I asked him questions and the path that we took in the interview, we were able to make some connections in places that he didn't necessarily, he wasn't necessarily aware of himself, of his path as a content creator relative to, like, you know, being born as the son of Vietnamese refugees here in the United States. So this was very fun for me to talk with him and kind of learn his philosophy and learn his perspective and chat about all things related to his business. But also, again, he's another creator who is just kind of like taken just a very like even keel approach, slow growth. Now, I think his channel has grown quite a bit since we had him on. I think he's closer now to like 30,000 subscribers.
Oh, wow.
And at the time I had interviewed him, he was almost at 20. Yeah. And so his channel is really starting to like pick up steam. But again, it's just a matter of patience and consistency, which is a common theme that we tend to hear from many of the guests who try to reflect and look back at what was like the X factor that led them to the success that they have on YouTube.
Yeah, like you said earlier, you guys were able to make connections in places that he doesn't know can be connected. Like you guys talked about how he's able to take his practices when it comes to investing and finance and bring that into how he does YouTube. And he said so himself that when he makes YouTube videos, it's like he always thinks about, what can I do better the next time? What can I tweak? If this worked well before, maybe it can work well again. So I feel like he's strategic in that sense when it comes to his YouTube videos. And like I said, that's apparent. And now he's, like you said, growing steadily his YouTube channel. And yeah, it's interesting how there's so much variety in terms of the people on YouTube, and that you're able to meet in ways that weren't possible before. Like, you just met him on Clubhouse. It kind of sounded like you guys are long time friends when you guys were talking on that episode. But it was just a nice flow of conversation. And I like what he said about how no university, no education can teach you everything that you need to know. And what impacted him the most when he was getting his MBA is that you have to learn things for yourself. You have to learn how to learn. And that's so important too when it comes to content creation, because I feel like there's always something new with the internet. There's always something new with content creation, new platforms, new strategies. So you have to be able to adapt to these things. And, that comes with, learning how to learning how to learn things for yourself and being a lifelong learner. And you also talked about that with Mark Wooding, that you have to be a lifetime learner. And education doesn't stop when you graduate, So yeah, and I also like what he said about true wealth. Like you said, he doesn't have to work now. He has enough money, he has enough income streams to pay for everything that he needs to pay for in life. And it's interesting how he came from that mentality of like that $1 a day to pay for his cell phone bill, and now he's doing well financially. So it's amazing. So it was a good conversation.
Yeah, that is. I think that's that was something also that stuck out to me, was just how he set the bar for himself. What were his expectations when it came to creating and then earning some sort of income from YouTube, right? Because a lot of people, I think, when they aspire to get on YouTube or become a creator anywhere now, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or something, they're just like, I'm going to build an audience of like a million plus people, and I'm going to make $1 million a year from this. And that is not realistic. It's very much in line like with what his friend Rob Abasolo of Rob Built said in episode 6 with me, that he was just hoping to make enough from YouTube AdSense to pay for a Chipotle burrito.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's what Rob said to me. And the same thing with Kai. His perspective is like, can I just make $1 a day? Can this cover, food for me for a month? Or can this then cover like insurance as it continues to grow? Mm-hmm. And I think those are probably like better barometers than to aim for like, I'm going to try and make like, thousands of dollars, US dollars a month. I mean, if you are a US creator, I mean, that's who really needs that, to be honest. But I thought that was something that really stuck out to me. But I do want to get into here some other things related to, again, building up towards the YouTube channel and what you're doing there. But as I mentioned earlier, I came across your content. Like the first video of yours that I watched was just your tour of your home. Mm-hmm. You taught yourself basically how to build this and construct it on your own, essentially. But it was interesting that you mentioned to me earlier that you had majored in undergrad in construction management. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So did that help you at all in terms of, this process that you had to go through to build and construct your own home?
So just a quick correction. I was majoring in construction engineering management, did an internship, hated it, switched it. So I was 1 year shy of credit. So you need like 27 or 26 credits for a minor. I had like 70 something. I was way over, but I hated it so much I switched over to business management, which I had already completed. So it's actually business management major, minor in construction engineering management. That was on the management side. So they didn't teach you how to swing a hammer. So there's a lot of construction engineers coming out of school that don't even know how to cut a piece of wood. So I didn't gain any experience from that. If anything, I was able to learn more of the basics of construction, more of like the planning, the getting the bid process, kind of organizing the chaos of construction. But in terms of how to put in plumbing, how to run electrical, it does nothing for that. I would actually have to credit my grad program, my MBA for that. One of the first lessons they teach you, or one of the things that they want you to walk away with, is learning how to learn. And so they want you to understand is that there's nothing that we can teach you now that when you go out there in the real world, you'll have everything that you need to do well. The best thing an education program can teach you is how to learn for yourself. And so I did not learn how to swing a hammer. I had some experience with remodels, but not building a house from scratch, let alone plumbing, electrical, siding, and everything else. But I do know how to learn. And I think that's probably one of the most important skill sets and probably one of my greatest assets that I have as an entrepreneur. And so, yeah.
Okay, so that is our season 2 recap. Before we go, Nikki, any final words, any final comments that you would like to add?
Yeah, this was an amazing season. I learned a lot being a content creator myself. I'm able to take these lessons from these content creators who are experienced and apply it to my own content creation journey. It's amazing how a lot of these people say the same things, and it's probably because it's true. These things are true. Like, for example, be consistent. You hear that a lot from all these interviews. So, we should probably be consistent as content creators then. If all these experienced content creators are saying, hey, you know what? Being on a schedule and learning and adapting and being consistent with your content, building that trust with your audience. Slow growth is still growth. Even if you have just 12 views, that's still 12 people, like what Cassandra Thompson said. So it's all these different lessons that you're really able to apply as a content creator. So it's really valuable to me. So yeah.
And on a final note, I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to our editors, Rexa Stanislaw and Shara Texon, as well as our project manager, Chaco Orukan. This was their last season working on the podcast, so we really appreciate them for all the work that they did on the show. And yeah, they are going to be working on just much more Video Husky content, but Video Husky clients, as they should be. So we appreciate everything that they've done for the show, and we now have a new editor. Shout out to him. I will be shouting out him in a moment. But that is all for this edition of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. Before you go, if you would like to get the show notes for this episode, you can visit www.videocraftshow.com. Also, we have a free gift for you. If you are struggling to organize and structure your ideas, you can get a copy of our free script template. Using it can help you do all of those things. All you have to do is head over to the description if you're watching this video version of the podcast on YouTube, and there's a link to our email sign-up list. Or you can go to www.videocraftshow.com and scroll down to the bottom, or click the button that says your free resource or free tool. I don't remember exactly what it is. We say something about it being free. Click that button when you go to videocraftshow.com, and it'll scroll down and you can fill out a form that will subscribe you to our email list and then deliver the free script template to your inbox. Also, want to remind everybody, if you can, actually, not if you can't, just do it. Please just do it. Do this. Please do it. Go and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. I think that is the only place that you actually can review podcasts. If I'm wrong, then let me know in the comments below. It helps us obviously get our podcast in front of more people. Make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe to the podcast here on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up as well. Turn on the notification bell if you want to hear of when the show releases brand new episodes, and do all of those things. And as I wrap up here, of course, thank you to Nikki Vicente, as well as our new editor, Vinny Luterio, and Paolo Lopez on graphics for making the Videocraft Show possible. If you would like to get your videos to look just like this on YouTube, then visit videohusky.com to learn more. We will see you on another episode, another edition of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky next week.
Bye, guys.
Okay, I think that's it, right?
Do we do like a outro?
Yeah,
or something?
yeah, we can do an outro.
No,
we
say
could
bye?
just no, we'll just say bye.
Bye, guys.
Peace. We're done. Bye, Felicia. Do kids still say that these days?
No.
Is that a thing?
Bye, Felicia. No
Bye,
one says that
Felicia.
anymore.
The crazy thing is they say that "Bye Felicia," that's old, when in reality, like, it became a meme from a really old movie from like the 1990s.
Oh yeah, I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, have you never seen Friday with Ice Cube and Chris Tucker then?
I don't know who those people are.
Oh my God.